to help you build a profitable business that's fun to run and to take the hassle out of your hustle. And today I have sitting in with me because Terry Austin is out on vacation. I've got
Oh,
Carlos Phoenix all the way from Atlanta, Georgia.
no, I'm actually in New York City.
Ah, I, were you in Atlanta at some point, or you were
Yeah,
traveling
so
probably that day?
I was living in Atlanta about 18 years, and then wife and I separated or are divorcing, so I had to come to New York for a while.
Okay, so you're in New York City, and that's the also the stomping grounds of our other biz chick. This is the biz dude, by the way. Um, uh, TJ Terry Johnson online. She is in New York City as well, and Terry Austin. She's up in Virginia, or anyway, she's on
East
vacation
Coast.
on the East Coast vacation.
That's right.
So I'm here in California. It's supposed to be sunny California. It is sunny, but it's a little nippy. It's cold here. Yesterday was 105.
But
Now
now, are you
it's
are you one of those that gets cold when it's like 80? Okay,
no, it's just cold right now. Yeah, I think it's like 60 something. It's 64 degrees right now.
okay, I can see that being a little kind of chilly.
Yeah, and then there's not like it's there's no sun hitting me, so I was like, oh, it's a little nippy today. So anywho, we are here and we want to talk about don't quit. I think I could speak to that today. I was like, oh my gosh, Terry's not going to be here today. And I could say just, let's just cut it, just not do a show, or we can soldier through.
Okay, soldiering is fun.
Yeah. So we're talking about don't quit.
Yeah,
In life, do we get opportunities to quit?
every day. I
Yeah.
mean, quitting is a part of your daily tasks and questionnaire that you when you wake up and you open your eyes. So it's like you wake up. Do you want to go to work, or do you want to continue sleeping? Do you want to have coffee, or do you want to have something else? I mean, everything is about decision making, and quitting is always one of the options.
Right. But if we quit, what really happens when you quit? You just decide to stop. Something is going to take over. Inertia or life still goes on, even if if one stops, if somebody just decides to just stop and plant. Life is,
Okay, that's a tricky question because it really depends on every individual's perspective. So, in a grand scheme of things, if you quit, nothing happens. In the universe, nobody notices,
mm,
but but you do, and so it really depends on the individual to determine whether quitting is something that's going to create some kind of a wave that will affect you in multiple ways, whether it's financial, happiness, um, mental, emotional. So there's a lot of different possibilities in the quitting on a localized personal level.
mm. So you don't get the benefit of quitting. Other people are not going to get a benefit of whatever it was that you brought to the table either.
Yeah, but nobody would ever know.
Right. But their answer got lost in the quit, in your quitting.
Sure,
Their
sure.
solution, their answer, their uh, help is gone now because you decided to quit. Like, what would happen if there was no, what is it, Madame Curie, or um, some of the things that we have now? If somebody just
Benjamin
said,
Franklin, Albert Einstein, the guy who
what if
invented
they would have
the
said,
refrigerator. Um,
yeah,
I mean, there's
like,
a lot of there's a lot of history of quitting. There's a lot of history of not quitting, and we tend to remember the ones that didn't quit, uh, provided we knew that they had that option. Now, Benjamin Franklin could have not flown the kite. He could have been like, "It's a lightning storm. Why would I fly a kite?" You know what I'm saying? But
he
that
flew the
being said,
kite.
um,
He flew the kite.
that's right. In a thunderstorm. So,
And now we have stuff that we can use because he flew the kite. We can talk on this here gadget
but yeah, but here's the
because he.
interesting thing: if he had just not done that, a little daily thing they could have not done, would we have known? Would we have cared? Would we, that's the interesting thing about this conversation is, um, and then we'll focus on the individual quitter
Mm,
because really it's a thing on an individual level that unless it's like a government decision and there's multiple people who quit, but um, for the individual, basic decisions are simple, but when they get more complex, when there's more possibility of loss and feeling that loss, that decision becomes heavier and has more risk and more um, possibilities of losing something. So, an example, if I'm just going to touch tiptoe around my business, if I had started this business earlier and I did choose to not do it, not quit completely, on a subconscious level, but because I knew that the risk would be if I'm dedicated too much to whatever it is that I'm trying to do, I'm going to probably lose my family. What's interesting is that I lost them anyway. So, in a way, that kind of freed me up to be able to pick up where I thought I was quitting and not quit and then pursue something. And now have the ability to pursue it without the risk anymore because, well, the risk already happened. Um, so that's interesting in those kind of thought dynamics. Oh, I lost your audio. You muted
no,
yourself.
it's not you, it's me.
Okay.
Um, so not doing it for the sake of someone else or something else, and you for fear of losing someone or something else, and it still could. So not going for it anyway was not. I don't think it's a good idea for anybody. Just go for it. Not to do it because of someone else, it's not a good idea. Has I said that right? Yeah. Do it.
Yeah. That's like the Nike commercial. Um, yeah. How should I put it? So usually people quit because there's something telling them to quit, like whether it's fear or risk of failure or um, it's too much work. So it's too complicated. It requires more than one person. I mean, there's so many reasons and justifications for quitting
Mhm.
that probably a majority of mankind quits before they even get started. Right? There's like sometimes you have an idea. Let's just say if we're focusing on business, and let's say you have an idea. And even for me, like when I had my idea, there was probably 1,000 reasons to quit or to even not try or not even start. Particularly the big one is usually money. People quit because they have no money or they don't have the money it requires to get to a certain level. And I'm like right in line with that, where it takes money sometimes to come up to push an idea to a certain level. And if you don't have it, then what's the alternative? You quit, you stop because it's like, what's the point? And there's people have probably millions of ideas that's where it ends up. It just ends up on the draft table and says, oh, well, I can't do it. There's no way. I don't have the resources. I don't have the capability. And that's been the conversation I've had in the past couple of weeks online on Facebook, on my timeline in some respects, because it takes a certain, let's just say we're taking an idea to fruition. It takes a pretty specific thought process to move forward and create your pathway to not quit. And so one of them is, who do I know? What are my resources? That's like a big one. And I'm sure a lot of what you guys converse about is creating those resources. So an example is if you live in a local area and you have your friendships that have access to resources, whether it's money, whether it's tools, whether it's connections, whether it's a friend of a friend of a friend, you know, that's all part of your thought process to help you create a pathway to succeed. And the easier you believe that pathway is, the less likely you'll quit because you think you can come up with a plan that will reach that goal.
Okay.
For a lot of people, once that, if the idea or the plan is too tall, too high to reach, then the incentive starts to kind of lessen. And then, depending on the kind of person you are, what's the threshold of you quitting because that incline is too deep and too high?
Mm.
Then there's those people who are like, I don't care how deep and how high, and then I've reached that. I've hit those really high peaks that I'm like, do I have the energy? Do I have the mentality, the emotional strength to push it anyway and keep going? And so you always get challenged on some of these things. I've reached so many challenges in the past 2 years, and now I'm at another challenge, and I could just lay down in bed and say I'm not getting up today, and that happens. That there are those days where you just don't want to wake up, and you're like, oh, not today. Just I need to take a breather, or you know what? There's those days when you're just so negative that you're like, this is never gonna happen, and you're telling yourself that. That's where another part of the conversation I've been having lately is who you're surrounding yourself with. Who is your emotional, mental base around you? Who are your friends? Who are your business connections? And when you have one of those low days, if you had not pre-set up that circle of friends and support, we can just say tap into and say, hey man, I'm having a low day. And usually it's women for me, but they're going to be the ones to, if you prepared that correctly, they would be the ones to pick you up and say, I got you. We'll go through this day together. Your negative thoughts are not going to stop you. We're going to take care of today. And they're going to hold your hand and lift you up and say, look, your idea has been this and that, and you've succeeded in this. And, if that's what's knocking you down, I got a friend of mine that can help you with that portion. We got the equipment here, and you really got to prepare that environment for yourself. Sometimes before you even start your idea or your planning,
Right.
without that support, sometimes it's hard for an individual by themselves with no resources, no support, no emotional support. Because sometimes you have those parents that are like, I told you should have gone to school for business or something, and you didn't. and and then that nagging is just like, yeah, you're right. I probably shouldn't be doing this. I'm the wrong person for doing whatever I wanted to pursue. Um, so there's all sorts of negative things that can come around you, and especially if you're on social media, you get a lot of those people who are like, just why would you be doing that, or how are you suddenly the best swimmer in the world, or why do you think you're better than the rest of us? And it's not about that, but people take that, especially if you're trying to create a positive pathway.
And their opinions, um, a lot of people, you can take in their opinions or you can push off their opinions. And I'm going to read some of the comments here because I don't know what StreamYard is doing because I can't see them over there. But it says that Jill says, she's from Breathing Space. She says, good morning. Agreed. Thoughts and thoughts of past history challenges are so strong. You know what you've grown up with and those type of things. And then Terrell says, who is your squad? Who is the squad that you're riding with? And like you said, Carlos, you need to determine who those are going to be, who those people are going to be long before you need them. So
Agreed.
the whole thing about social media is the social part. Now it's just online where everybody can see it. It's the social. So this was you should have been social before getting online, right? We supposed to have friends, family, and people, even if you're not online. But it's kind of cool that we can draw from one another here online as well. But having those people in your circle, I think is really, really critical. You need cheerleaders, you need coaches. Coaches kick you in the butt and tell you, give me 20, let's go. The cheerleaders are like, you can do it, come on. But you need both of them so you don't quit.
Well, okay, so if we break it down, you're totally 100% correct. What's interesting is that we don't teach this to our kids. Um, what a lot of people, school being a topic of conversation recently, especially with college, um, the importance of what parents can teach their kids is something like this. School is not truly about learning about history and stuff. I mean, it's there. That's the data, right? School technically should be the process of learning how to learn, right?
Mm,
School is really, and this should be told to the students. 99% of what you're going to learn is going to be useless in life, but it's great conversation as you're going through your life, right? Being able to say, well, in World War II, such and such happened. That's cool. That's great. You learn your history and you're trying not to repeat it and stuff like that. But really, that's just data for conversation and showing that you know what you know and stuff like that. But what's really now important in terms of learning is the ability to learn how to find a challenge, know where you can get your resources and how to grab the information, the data from those resources, and then implement them to succeed. And that portion of education is not told to the student. They think that they're just trying to get all this data because they'll use the data in life, when it's
mm,
really the process of learning. Because you don't go to a corporate office to talk about history. You don't go to a corporate office to talk about science and math and stuff like that. Now, you might use some of those things depending on what you're choosing to do in your career, but really, it should be the specifics of what steps to take to learn with the challenges and outsmart the challenge. If that is taught, the opportunities to quit are lessened, because if you know how to take on a challenge, there's likely less reasons to want to quit, with the exception of desire. Well, I just don't care whether I make it on this or not. The other thing that needs to be taught heavily, 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 heavily is to be 100% okay with failure.
mm-hmm.
Failure is part of the equation of life, and failure is part of the fear that people use to quit. So if they're afraid to lose or fail, then they're less likely to go after the challenge. If they realize, what, that's part of the equation, that it's okay and you can live on, and it shouldn't be afraid because you're not going to hell because you failed. Then if you understand that, yeah, that's part of the excitement of it, then go for it anyway, and that don't use that as one of the mountains to go against you and quit.
Right. Now, I agree that school should be a place to learn how to learn. And one of the things that you should be learning in school is to develop the thing that's in you. School should help you develop that passion, that that innate thing that you were born with. That's and because I was somebody was talking about, I'm going to college to find myself. No, you need to know yourself before you get to college, so that college is helping you discover, not discover you, but help you figure out how to get that thing that's in you out. And you should not, I don't think people should be going, I want to go to college and find out who I am. Yeah, you should have been getting that kind of somewhere at home, and home is supposed to help you pull that out.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because it's so difficult because everybody's lifestyle is so different. Um, people who have harsh parents, that affects their entire lives. If you have harsh
Yep.
parents, for example, those parents are creating an environment where the child wants to leave and quit, or not quit, but just leave and experience life in a different way. And so that mentally, what's happening is you're structuring them to desire something that has nothing to do with the success of their lives. It just has to do with running away from you. You know what I'm saying? Or now, if they live
I
in a
gotta
bad
get
neighborhood,
out.
if they live in a bad neighborhood, that's another equation. Part of the equation is, like we mentioned before, is your resources. As adults, we look at at the word resources very heavily. But when you're a kid, a teenager, or someone in college is probably the first time that people say, "Hey, look, the people that are around you are going to be the people who are going to be applying to the same jobs, and they're going to be your challengers, but they also might be your bosses, right? Because nobody tells you that in junior high school or high school. But if we were teaching our kids that, the friends that you're making could be your future resources, and make sure you select your resources well, because in life, that's what you're going to be holding hands with to succeed. And success, of course, would be different for everybody. It could be, oh, well, at least I got a house and a car, compared to, well, I got a mansion and a boat. But understanding that the people around you, and this is more an entrepreneur conversation in my mind, because people who just are okay with their 9 to 5 um, may or may not care whether they have resources, because they're just, the job to them is the resource. But if we are prepared early enough in life and understand that those around us are our resources, those schools basically a way to learn how to learn. You're building the tools to be able to not want to quit in things, because you know how to take on the challenge.
Right, right. Tachi says, and that doesn't mean that you can't discover more about yourself in college.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the
Right.
discovering of yourself, and I have a whole philosophy on that. The discovering yourself is so controlled by the way you absorb your environment and all your challenges in life, breakups, the things that cause you pain, all that type of stuff. Most people are like sponges, and what they do is they hold all the negative and use it as a shell to justify the decision makings of the future. Right?
Mm,
People live in the past and constantly use the past as the excuse as how they're moving towards the future. And so,
right,
and that has a lot to do with where they think that they themselves are or who they are. They use those experiences to create who they are. What they don't realize is that has nothing to do with who you are, and the only way to learn who you are is to remove all those shells. And
right.
once you remove all those shells and you see who's at the core, you're much closer to knowing who you are than a person who holds on to all the negative.
You could put the armadillo armor on, and then yeah, you, because you're keeping people out, you're keeping opportunities out, as well as you think you're protecting yourself.
Well, things, even
Um,
your perceptions of opportunities.
mhm.
Like on the outside, we might see somebody getting an opportunity, but to them, they're like, "That's a challenge. It's not an opportunity. It's difficult. It's hard. There's a bias. There's something behind it. There's an agenda behind it. And your decision making on that is based on what has occurred to you before. When you remove all those fears and the shells, and you're able to clearly see that something is an opportunity, you're more likely to confront it and take it on.
Yeah, because we had a conversation yesterday about celebrating the wins, celebrating even if you called a client or a client called you. If you take time to celebrate that, and say, hey, that was something good, instead of, I didn't have any business yesterday. I was like, it's the perspective that we picked up on. It's like somebody called you yesterday. Somebody said they wanted something you offered. Or you can, like, because you didn't have 50 people call, now you are, okay, I didn't have a good day because I didn't have 50. Uh, Who, where's our gauge for,
That's
I'm gonna
interesting that
shut
you're
this.
using the word gauge. So here's where technology comes into play, especially in a day like in this environment of today. Measuring your results is massive. It's key. If you're just an individual and things are happening on a day by day basis and you're not measuring, then you're going to allow that day's occurrences to control your emotional state, and you'll see the failures as only failures. You don't see the fact that in the past month everything's been going well, and having a certain technology to track that. Use the word gauge. If I had these glasses and they're constantly showing how well my day is going, you want to see it on the upcline, and the more likelihood it's going on the upcline, the more likely I'm going to keep trying to push that upcline.
And I
If
won't
you had
quit.
if you have something that tracks your sales and stuff like that, and it creates a graph and stuff, I'm sure Salesforce does things like that, and I'm sure there's tons of other applications that do that. But people should use that as, okay, today may have been a little day, but the past month we've been doing great. So that's now incentive, as opposed
Right.
to only looking at the negative and being like, oh, probably tomorrow's probably gonna be just as bad. you know?
Yeah, but and that's good, because all but the last 3 weeks, like you said, it's been up. It's just today, it's summer. People are at the pool. Okay, we're not there, they're not there, but 3 weeks prior, you had off the chart sales, but you didn't look at your charts.
No, yeah,
The-
exactly. If you,
So
that's
you
why I'm saying
don't
that
know.
technology is important. Or having some form of tracking that you can visually see and say, okay, all right, okay, it's not today's a bad day, but look at this. We've been doing great for the past month. That's great, and like they're saying, celebrate the wins. But um, I was going to say something. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm saying, if you track it, maybe you don't quit. If
Correct.
you're tracking it, you now it lessens your, I mean, it strengthens, let's do that. It strengthens your resolve when you can actually see progress being made,
But also, when I
instead of,
mentioned earlier, there's the being okay with failure. Now, a day of failure is not as bad as a month of failure, right? But the benefits of being okay with failure is to say, okay, why is it okay to fail? Because you use that as reference as to what not to do next time, right? So if you're having a
right,
bad day, that's your failure day, and that's cool. If you had the attitude of, all right, this is nothing. What's going on? What's causing it to fail? Oh, it's bad weather today. And okay, tomorrow's sunny. Cool. If it's a whole other reason, somebody changed the tax bill and now sales are going down. All right, how can we circumvent the tax bill? In other words, getting caught up with the failure is not what you do. If you're okay with the failure, then you have the mentality to say, okay, well, what's causing that failure, and analyzing it, and then trying to fix it on your own.
right. So here's something I learned from Miles Monroe. Crisis is going to happen. You just need to prepare for it.
Mm-hmm.
If you are prepared for it and you know it's coming, then you don't get freaked out, and you don't, like, oh, it's over with. No, like, if you heard on the news that they're changing the tariffs for China, and you buy stuff from China, you're making another move before you're looking, you seeing that train coming down the tracks, get off the tracks and figure out a new way of making that happen. Don't just stand there like, oh, and get hit by the train.
Now treat your business as a weather report. Um, in other words, if you know that if you're in Louisiana and if you have your TV always set to the Weather Channel, you're going to be way better prepared than most of the people around you. If they're going to report that hurricane's coming, to start setting up those sandbags or moving out.
Right.
Being able to track your business environment, what the challenges are, checking out the stock, knowing what's going on with your competition, being able to see what the trends are, how everything's being affected and what's affecting it, is like watching the weather. And being able to see that you're not the only one, in the failure decline, that it's happening system wide, you're able to then prepare for that and say, okay, well, it looks like things are on a downtrend for the next month because these are what's happening to the businesses, competitors around us. Let's see what we can do to outsmart that and see how we can turn that around.
And
So forecasting is a big thing for business that a lot of people don't do.
yeah, how about, let's say, who's some people who didn't forecast?
Uh,
So there is Blockbuster. They are like the poster child of
Totally.
not forecasting.
Music
Kodak,
industry.
the music industry, yes. Come on now, iPod's been out for a minute. Y'all saw the handwriting on the wall. You saw Napster coming, but you still didn't make it. You went and sued the little 10-year-old girl because she, downloaded some songs on her little device. And
Newspapers, magazines. I mean, the list is endless. Taxi cabs. I mean, people who. So, what's interesting though is those people who, out of the blue, so it seems, created something different. So, who would have thought that you don't have to own taxi cabs to take over the taxi industry? Those are things that are hard to prepare for. But once it starts happening, though, and that's a trend, then you start having, cab companies and all type of stuff all started pursuing app creators to see if they can create an app for their taxi business,
right.
stuff like that. I mean, having talked to magazines and newspapers and trying to convert them to live streaming news organizations. Video rentals is someone saying like Blockbuster and stuff. Trying to convince them to turn into a television station, so to speak, using live streaming. That's been a big agenda on my part for magazines and stuff like that. In fact, a part of my business model, for those who don't know what I do, we're building like our own type of Netflix, and we have other technologies that use live streaming to allow you, the participant, to watch, to also engage and interact live on video with the actors and stuff in real time. But that's not today's conversation. That's part of the challenges that I have to do and not quit. But but part of going to, let's say, a newspaper and say, hey, look, the only way you're going to survive this, because nobody's visiting your website because you thought that was your survival tactic, is, oh well, we'll just have our newspaper online. People aren't showing up at your website, so you need to go where they are. And if you can broadcast your news as video, and tell your stories, and then have your newspaper ads turn into videos, lower thirds, or sponsored by HP or your local Kroger, whatever, on your video feed, then you're able to maintain your profitability plus, maintain your user base. And so I've been able to convert a few to that, and now they were close to bankruptcy, and now they're thriving. And that's
Nice.
all in like a year's time. I think it's been about a year now. And that's so much so that they were sold and bought by a company that sees the vision and now is pushing that. So now I'm going to go back to those companies, and because I have my own Netflix, I'm saying, okay, well, let me put you on television. Because now the first thing that people ask when they're watching the news on, let's say, Facebook, is what channel can I tune in to watch this? So now I will be able to offer that.
Cool. Now, see, you stepped in and offered a solution, but you could have quit last year.
Yeah, I mean, I can still quit today.
But
It's not a never end. It's a never
it's
ending
not
challenge.
not quitting is what you said earlier today. Not quitting is a decision that has to be made every day, because you're
Correct.
going to get challenges that want to make you just put down the sword. I'm out here. Take the ball. Leave me alone. You want to do that, but you're going to get those opportunities every day.
Yeah, at this point, um, and this is just for me. I can't speak that this is something that people would take on mentally. And this is going to sound kind of morbid, but I feel, I try to take a perspective of I pretty much lost everything. Now, it's not that bad. I still see my child and all that type of stuff. It's not that bad, but I'm trying to give it a damn. This is pretty bad because there are times you wake up and it's like I don't have my child here. So part of the separation is we have our child here or there and so on. But as a dad who's like very tight with my child, it's hard times when I wake up and she's not around. So there's an emotional stress there. There's a mental stress there. That's this and that. Now that being as extreme as it can be for some people might be homeless. Now, how many times have we heard of a homeless person becoming a millionaire? You got Tony Robbins as a prime example. For those who don't know Tony Robbins,
Right.
look him up. He was a millionaire who lost everything at the age of 20 something and then was homeless and then worked his way back up. How many millionaires do we know of that never even went to college or went to college but quit and stuff? I mean, these are people who take on the challenge and say, you know what do I got to lose? So that's the position I feel I'm in. It's like, what do I got to lose? I mean, I've already been homeless maybe sometime last year. And so for me, everything's on the upswing, even if it's a bad day. And so part of those challenges are, one, will the industry shift with me? Will competitors outsmart me? Will I be able to get the investment capital that I'm looking for to continue the upswing? Will people be able to recognize what I'm trying to do and go with me in that direction? Or did I misread everything and the trend's going to go a different direction? So there's a lot of challenges on a daily when I wake up and I'm like, oh, I got to tackle this headache today. And it's difficult. But the only reason I continue to go is because, well, part of the experience of taking on these challenges is the fun to see if it'll work.
Right.
And so even if it fails miserably, and it can, and I'm okay with that, I'm not going to jump off a bridge if it does. And that's part of being okay with failure. It doesn't mean that you get caught up in the possibility of failure. It also doesn't mean that you want to lead everything to the direction of failure. You use your resources to see if what you're analyzing and seeing is in the right direction with an outside opinion. And that's where having your resources, your friends, your family, well, not so much family. Most of the people that grew up with you, that's difficult unless they happen to be coincidentally thinking the same ways that you think. Cool, but you also have to be able to be okay with accepting that someone's going to be honest with you and say that's a really bad idea, you don't want to do that, and know that you trust them to give you the true opinion that would save you. So there's a lot of thoughts and a lot of challenges in that, but these are conscious things that you have to do if you're going to take on any kind of business, whether it could be a local pizza place, it could be a bakery, it could be whatever on a smaller level, or big multimedia challenges like what I'm trying to take on, which takes millions of dollars worth of technology and a lot of just numbers and stuff on the virtual sofa. So anyway,
Right there.
so the funny thing is, if you have to pre-prepare your environment. You have to know that your environment is part of your success. If you do not, stop and say, okay, wait, my parents, they're always negative on me because they're like, oh, you should just go get a job. Because if you're an entrepreneur, sometimes you leave your job or whatever. If you have your friends that are like, nah, I'm going to talk about the football game today. I don't care about what you're doing. Those are the kind of environments that you're like, you know what? Yeah, you can keep those friends, but you might want to sectionalize them for the weekends, let's say. What you really want to do is say, okay, who is my true environment, the one that can help me build a mountain and help me, take on the challenges, who have the resources to help. I may not have connections to money, let's say. So, but if I get the right people in my, let's say, inner circle that might have connections, who might have connections that can get me to money, let's work that and implement that as part of my next phase in my planning. So there's a lot of things to think about and prepare outside of just your standard business plan and outside of your standard, building a website and setting up your marketing. Those are the business steps. But part of the personal steps are what's around you and how can you turn that into a reinforcement for your heart, your soul, your mind.
That is nice. That is really great information, and a great place for us to what's the word, a stopping point, so that we can actually take that. So say that one more time. You want to have
I have no clue what I
you
said.
okay. You want to have and then you want to prepare your environment.
Yeah, so let's say you're starting starting a business thing. What you're doing is you're going to create a storm, right? You're about to
Mhm.
create some chaos in your life because starting a business is not like, oh, I'll just do this. I'll just get my credit cards. I'll have a bank account. Boom, business. No, you're about to start a storm. There's going to be a lot of different, it's going to be cloudy. It's going to be rainy. It's going to be lightning storms. It's going to be windy. It's going to be all this type of stuff in your life. And what you want to do is you want to create your environment so it's not so stormy. So you can have some sunshine in there. And part of that is, I need someone who, a friend of mine, I went to college with Joe, but man, I never got that close with Joe. Let me call up Joe because he's really resourceful. He's in the same kind of line of work that I'm in. He might be inspiring. And some of these people might become your partners, which is the beauty of it. Um, Jane, she's a great organized person. She knows how to go through the thinking process of figuring out problems. And then, you got Mary over there who's, she has connections, me in particular, the entertainment industry. I got, Joseph, who's part of the music industry. I got this guy who's a technology guy. I could really use some security in the technology that I'm working on. And then next thing you know, you got all these resources and people that if they don't know the answers, they might know somebody that knows somebody that has the answers. And that's the kind of environment you want to be able to create as you're about to step into your own storm. And before you
And
know, you're like, you know what? The storms aren't so bad. It's just a little breeze.
right. But you know what? In all of that you said, n- there's no part of that where you're by yourself.
Correct.
And that's the myth of the solopreneur situation, that you can do it all alone, but you can't.
Yeah, the fact that there is even a word called solopreneur, I'm not even sure if that's in the dictionary, but who are you selling
Somebody
to
made it up.
yourself? Yeah, I know, but and yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's businesses where you are, you're the only one registered in your business.
Right.
That's still not a solopreneur. Okay, yeah, you're the sole owner. That's fine, but the word solopreneur is rubbish.
Yeah, because it takes all of that to help you not quit.
Because
You, you
part of that environment has to be someone who can help you bring in that audience, or is your audience, right? So I go live because my audience helps me sometimes and pick me up.
right,
Right. So,
right.
the circle doesn't have to be 5 people. Now, the inner circle could be 5 people, but you have to have a bigger circle where your audience and your market and stuff can believe in you and help you.
Okay, Fraser is talking to you.
Darn, that rub is getting long on your chin. Oh, this thing. Don't worry, this will come off soon. This is an experiment because I've never in my life grown facial hair uh, intentionally. I've always shaved since I was a kid. And anyway, don't want to
Okay,
veer
well
off
that I
topic.
mean, because you're experimenting stuff. But anyway, conversation is really good. We need to, please, if you just joining us, go back, watch the replay. If you've been here, go back and watch the replay, because this was some really good nuggets. And one of the things I'm taking away from this is that if I want to strengthen my resolve not to fail, is having the right environment around me. When you were talking about that, it's like setting up the stage for a production.
Totally.
You can build sunshine into the production. You don't have to have rain all day. Okay, here we're going to have sunshine. Here are the lights for that. and here are the people and the support cast to make it all happen.
Yeah, but you have to make sure that these people are authentic. You don't want to just
Right.
fake. You don't want to fake your environment. In other words, you don't want to just go to Joe Blow, who couldn't care less about you, and say, "Hey, can you be my friend?" Because they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, sure," and then they don't really
Eh,
care. It's not reinforced. You want to make sure that the people that you're developing these relationships. That where networking is very big on that. So if you network and you're going to these networking events and you you meet people and you stay on the phone with them and you're chatting with them, create that relationship. It's
right.
really the relationship. I'm using words like environment and all type of stuff, but these people have to become your friends. They have to truly believe in you as a person, and you have to provide as much as you're hoping to get. So you have to be their resource too, not just use people as a resource, because that's not what that's about. It's not
Right.
about, well, let me use people. It's about, let me create true authentic relationships. I hate using that word authentic, but true, like real relationships, real friendships that can be lifelong. Because if somebody helped you become successful, why shouldn't they be your friend? Like, how can you not be having dinner with them or going to a barbecue with them and stuff like that? So
Right.
you have your friends that you probably grew up with and stuff like that, and that's cute, that's nice, and hopefully they can become part of your resources. But have that be here, and then if you want to be a business person, or or just pursue something. If you want to be an athlete, who are you going to surround yourself with? Other players and coaches, and athletic, medical people. That's going to be your other environment. That's going to be your other, and that's going to help you reach your peak in your athletic career. Same thing with business. You want to be able to get those same type of resources, and then become very close to them, and be real, and be a resource to them as well. So if all of a sudden,
Right.
Joe says, "Hey, Carlos, I want to have my own channel." Okay, let's sit down and talk about it. Now they're using you as a resource, and that's a conversation that you can help them with just as much as you usually talking to them is a resource as well.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Carlos, because this helped me. Because today, like I said, Terry is out on the road, and I don't know what happened that we didn't get a filler or what have you. But you jumping in was my resource. Do you understand what we had not built relationships over the years? I was like, okay, who can I call in our circle? And
Yeah,
you
you
said,
basically sent me a message about 10 minutes before we went live, and then I had to do my hair. And
I was like, okay, but I was prepared. We was going live regardless. So thank you so much for sitting in today. This is Carlos Phoenix for all of you who may not know him, and tell us again what your company is.
okay, so technically it's about 5 companies, but I'll simplify it. One is Live Streaming Master. We sell all live streaming equipment, thousands, about 2,000 different pieces of equipment for all types of live streaming, from bottom of the line using iPhones and iPads to top of the line doing sports broadcasting on television and internet. Then I have
Okay.
Latin Entertainment Network, which is our Latin television channel that we're building. That will be including movies and TV shows and all types of stuff. Then we have live streaming, a live entertainment network as well, which is live events, sports, concerts, other types of events that we broadcast directly to you on your Apple TV, Roku, stuff like that. And then we have Beatflix Music, which is worldwide distribution of independent artist music, and it's all combined because each one is a resource to the other. So a musician can have a television channel to help monetize them better, help them reach the audiences in multiple different ways outside of just YouTube, and then just kind of fall in the $1 billion video collective, and so on. So those are the kind of things that we're doing, and eventually we'll have a studio in Atlanta where people will be able to shoot films and stuff like that, um, and marketing services and all sorts of services for the entertainment industry on the independent side. All the resources that they've been missing for the past 20 or 30 years.
So you do all things live.
Well,
Got
live
it.
and pre-recorded, because you can do a TV show. So
Well,
the idea,
but
so the go ahead.
but you're the live guru. If you want to go live and you want to understand how to do it well, you need to call Carlos.
Yeah, we got you
Text
covered.
him, text him,
We're
whatever.
hoping to build a multi-million-dollar setup in the Caribbean soon for the purpose of concerts and sports. And there's just everything's shifting, everything's changing behind the scenes, and you get to sit back and enjoy it by being able to tune in on your phone and on your television. So we're part of
Cool.
that world.
So if you want more information about that, reach out to him. We just want to say thank you for everybody who's watching live and those who are watching on the replay, for all of our guests who are here and everyone who joined the conversation. Thank you for tuning in. Fraser, Tachi, Terry, who's out on vacation, Terrell, and Jill, all of you, thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow. We'll have another special guest because TJ is doing rule number 3, and the Biz Chicks rule number 3: do what makes you money first. That means that go handle your business, and if you got something to do, handle your business. So some of you might be getting a text or something from me asking for you to sit in on the show tomorrow. If you're available, hit me up on Facebook Messenger and let me know. And we'll figure out something to talk about on social media. So that's it for today. Thank you, everybody. Everybody watching Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, wherever I put this at today. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I'm in Carlos Phoenix in everything.
Cool. Carlos Phoenix everywhere. All right. Enjoy the rest of your wonderful Monday, and we will talk to you again soon. Thank you.